All right, so today we're going to talk about and review Rocky 4, and this to me is my favorite entry of the series, right off the bat, and we'll get into that and so much more here. And the story real quick, so Ivan Drago, he's now the villain here. He's played by Dolph Lundgren, and he's this unstoppable machine, and he's in the States, promoting his athleticism and Soviet superiority. Apollo Creed, he wants to challenge Ivan Drago to a exhibition. Rocky's not sure, of this match. He's worried for, worried for Apollo Creed. Apollo Creed goes through the match, but, Drago is too much for Apollo. He kills Apollo Creed. Rocky doesn't throw in the towel. And soon after that, Rocky, he wants revenge. So he goes to Drago's turf, pretty much, and the USSR to train for a fight against Ivan Drago in his backyard, and that's the plot here for Rocky 4. But again, Rocky 4 for me is an exhilarating film and sequel that has so much going for it. The cast here, everybody does a great job, with the addition of we have a new villain here. We got Ivan Drago, played by Dolph Lundgren. Now, prior to Rocky 4, I think Dolph Lundgren had a small part in A View to a Kill. He was a bodyguard in that film, but this was his breakout role. And what an iconic villain that even for people out there that haven't seen Rocky 4, they know who Ivan Drago is. This film here, when it came out, it made so much money. It was embedded in pop culture, and even now it's embedded in pop culture. Whether due to the soundtrack, again, Ivan Drago's your villain here, and so much more. Huge hit when it came out. It made like 300 million. I think it was like the third highest grossing film of that year. But again, get back to the cast here. Everybody does a great job here. The plot, again, it's a straightforward revenge story. Drago kills Apollo. Rocky wants to go after Apollo. I almost said Apollo, but, Rocky wants to go after Drago on his turf. And I really loved, Rocky being in that geography, that secluded remote cabin with the snowy mountains. And, the training and the soundtrack, and, he's doing it his way. And meanwhile, over here, Drago is getting assistance via a laboratory, getting juiced up, using machines. And so it's like, kind of the down and dirty training versus high tech, type of training here. So I really enjoyed the plot of the movie here. And again, it's a straightforward, basically a revenge story. Now, as far as the death of Apollo Creed, I've always wondered about, should he have lived? Of course, he died here, but I do wonder if Apollo should have lived. And I put out a post a few days ago asking, should have Apollo Creed died in Rocky 4? And I listed 3 options. And the most votes, 21 people voted. 57% says no, Apollo should have lived. Behind that, 24% says yes, it was fine. And 19% of the votes are in the middle. It seems a lot more people wanted Apollo to live. I feel the same way. I think Apollo should have lived. I don't think he needed to die here. That's just me. But again, it's interesting to look at that. I really did thought that Apollo should have lived was going to take the entire poll here. But it seems like, again, people have different opinions on the matter. And that's fine. I think Apollo should have lived. But, it is what it is. The score by Vince DiCola, I do like the score here. I would say I prefer Bill Conti more, when it comes to his score throughout the other films. But, Vince DiCola does a good job here. The soundtrack is iconic. One of the best soundtracks to any film. I mean, when you have songs like Burning Heart and Hearts on Fire, where he's training in the barn, No Easy Way Out, Living in America by James Brown, we all remember that scene. The Sweetest Victory, you can't get better than this soundtrack. I mean, again, one of the best soundtracks to a film ever, period. The training scenes, again, were exciting, especially when that soundtrack kicks in, which I know over the years, people have made fun of that, oh, it's another montage, or, I know that one criticism when it comes to Rocky IV that some have said over the years is basically, an hour and a half music video. I, again, disagree with that statement. I enjoy this movie, and I do enjoy the training scenes or the montage scenes. I think they're exciting, and it really, really pumps you up from the core when you get that soundtrack, when that kicks in, and again, just, it's very motivating. When Rocky is running through the snow and running up the mountain, and again, great stuff. And the fight was great too. The end fight, I really enjoyed the end fight. And of course, you got the victory speech to conclude the movie. And I do wonder too with Rocky IV, looking back, when you throw in everything with the ending here, the victory speech, Rocky being held up, the whole red, white, and blue backdrop here throughout the movie, because this is the mid 80s, it's a very patriotic time period, and it's such a great ending. I wonder, should have this been the end of the series? Rocky V I can watch. I mean, I'll talk more about that when I get to Rocky V here. And of course, I love Rocky Balboa. But the way this film ends, I'm like, if this would have been the end of the series here, looking back, I mean, it probably would have been fine. Because, it's almost like you can't really get better than this. Rocky being celebrated, and it's a great moment. It's a great high note for the character. So I do wonder sometimes, and again, I can watch Rocky V as like a time waster, but Rocky IV, when you go from Rocky IV to Rocky V, I mean, I don't know what they were thinking there in terms of story, going from riches to rags again, and I'll talk about that, but it felt like, to me, it ended on such a high note for the character, that if everything ended here with Rocky IV, I would have been fine. But we got Rocky V and Rocky Balboa, so yeah. But it's an interesting thought. Now it is time for my overall thoughts on Rocky IV. My favorite entry of the Rocky franchise, an exhilarating sequel with a great villain in Ivan Drago, played by Dolph Lundgren, fantastic soundtrack with a nice score by Vince DiCola, energetic pace, and montage scenes that excite. And out of 5 stars, I'm going to give Rocky IV 5 stars. But that's it for now. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.